Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and on this match day, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris McElwain and Kevin McCluskey to talk about Celtic versus St Johnstone. Just as we approach the latest international break, and obviously Brendan Rodgers has been speaking about a number of players, Chris, coming back after that break.
Yes.
You look at that team today, Carter Vickers re-enters the fray. Honestly, it's like we're not worthy. You get down on your knees when a player like that comes back in the side, because he does offer the solidity, the leadership. He gives you a calmness on the ball. He moves the ball quicker at the back. It's massive to have him back, isn't it?
Yeah, I said it yesterday. I think he's the leader in that back line. I think he's one of the leaders on the pitch overall. One of the big things for me is a reference yesterday is I think, whether it's Scales or any other players he's playing alongside, I think he's able to account for some of their weaknesses at the back. And that might be required today because, as we saw last week, Welsh is, he does have some real flaws in his game or some real weaknesses in his game that could be exploited. So we're going to depend on, the kind of old pro, the seasoned pro that is Carter Vickers. He's a proven winner. He's demonstrated that in the last couple of years. He seems to be a calming presence at the back. I think there's an element of trust amongst the players around him as well, which I think is really important, especially just now with the pressure really on. And we do have guys like Kuhn, in the team, Bernardo, a couple of guys who maybe not really quite as ingrained into the team or the culture of the club. So, he's really going to have to lead physically, mentally, his positional sense, and his ability. Actually, I think one of his key attributes, his ability to get the ball out from the back as well, and allow us to counter quickly. That's something I think we miss when he's not playing.
Yeah, the massive glaring issue we had last week. And when people start analysing the game, even just making a compilation, Kevin, of clips of, let's say, Scales, Welsh, or both of them, and it's the pace. And I'm not talking on a foot race. It's just the pace in which they're laborious with the ball. They don't get it out quick enough. They're constantly passing to each other, not always in an offensive sense. We've seen that clip of Welsh gathering the ball constantly from behind them. And they're not getting it out to the wings quick enough. They're not getting it to the playmakers quickly enough, Kev. And I think Carter Vickers brings that back to the side when he's in there.
Yeah, he does. I'm not sure who it was that posted that video that you're on about, but I saw it. I commented on it on Twitter as well. And it was something that we mentioned during the half-time and the post-match at the game last week. It's absolutely frightening. Mm-hmm. And whoever posted it originally, he's just saying that the very basic thing, can we not start coaching Liam Scales to play the ball 2 yards further forward? Because every single thing went behind Stephen Welsh. And as much as we had a go at him last week for not having his best performance, he wasn't helped by that. Every single time he's having to check back, slows him down, slows the momentum down. It's maybe just like 1 or 2 seconds every time, but an organised defence only needs 1 or 2 seconds to get back into position. And it's slowed everything down. You've lost that momentum. Chris has probably nailed it with Carter Vickers coming back in. He's got that kind of playing on the front foot attitude about himself. He'll take us forward a bit quicker. And it's great to have him back. Just that leadership that we lack when he's not there. Mm-hmm. There's always a worry. Anytime a high ball comes in when he's not there, we don't have anyone to command it. We don't have anyone to marshal the defence. So it is great to see him back. I've got a wee concern, though, that maybe we've rushed him back because we've done this a few times already this season. But I think Scales' injury has forced Brendan's hand a wee bit because he clearly doesn't fancy Lagerbielke. I would probably have played him today, to be fair, just to get minutes in his legs. But he's not in the manager's plans. Carter Vickers is back. You've just got to have our fingers crossed that he gets through the 90 minutes or the hour, whatever he's planned for, and he gets through unscathed. And he gets back to full fitness in time for that game in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, not sure what game you're on about. Now, at some point during the season, Kevin McCluskey, at some point during the season, I'm sorry, mate, but you know what? If you say it, you're going to have to live and die by it. You're on the hook, right? Compared Haksabanovic to Berbatov, I'm just leaving it hanging, Kev. I'm leaving it hanging, mate. Right, you did. Simple as that.
I did.
It was more of his.
I'll own that one.
It was more of his body language than his ability, to be fair. But I'm about to make a comparison here, and I know you're always told not to do it. Ever since Brian McLaughlin was likened to Jimmy Johnstone, Simon Donnelly was likened to Kenny Dalglish, rather.
Kevin Dalglish, who was that?
Kev, he wasn't so good. I mean, when it comes to Lagerbielke, the reason where I'm going with this, Kev, but thanks for delaying it. Where I'm going, it's like you said, the defence, so it takes us a second and you lose the impetus. I've completely lost my point here. Lagerbielke is as likely to get a game under Rodgers as Riordan was under Strachan. He's become that player that no matter what the situation is, you're not getting a game, son. Now, we've heard firsthand, we've heard rumours, etc., around what he doesn't like about the player. But I was watching last week, and listen, there's comments coming in similar to that. John Sweeney would also have played Lagerbielke in beside Carter Vickers, just as Kevin McCluskey says. As Welsh looked half fit last week, but Rodgers still persistent not playing him. Now, the gaffer knows more than any of us put together will ever know about football. He's watching them, and I get this every single day in training. But Welsh was poor last week. He really was poor, Chris. And if it was a toss-up between Scales and Welsh, Scales for me is definitely a first-teamer over Welsh. Scales is injured. Welsh retains the jersey. He looked slow. He looked unfit. Near the end of the game, looked as though he was pulling up with a hammy. And I would have, for the very reason Kev said, we've got the big game coming up at the beginning of April. I would have got some minutes in his legs. And I hope that maybe in the last 30 minutes, when there's 60 minutes on the clock, he does get those minutes in his legs, because, I mean, we're facing down a barrel that we've faced down before when it comes to injuries for our centre-backs going into a Rangers game.
We have, but I mean, as much as I think the Rangers game could be the real critical point in the season, we've got to win every game. We can't. I don't think we're in a position just now to take a risk on players who've either who haven't played at all, not by virtue of being injured, but just haven't been first team regulars. And I think when you see how many things we've had to chop and change the back line, we've had to bring in Welsh, we've had to bring in Nawrocki when he's fit. Lagerbielke did play a little bit at the start of the season before he dropped out. And all the disruption, and not having Carter Vickers there, it's led to us looking a bit defensively frail, because there's no understanding between the guys who are in the back line. Positional sense is no there. There's rustiness. They may not necessarily be playing to the strengths of the team in terms of trying to quickly distribute the ball out from the back. So we're almost a little bit damned if we do, damned if we don't. We've got a real good proven player there in Carter Vickers. For me, I would take a 75% fit Carter Vickers over a 100% fit Stephen Welsh if you put me on the spot. But you're right. Do we play him, give ourselves the best chance of keeping a clean sheet, hopefully getting a few goals in the first half, and then if we get to a position of security in this match, do we then take him off? But who do we bring on? I mean, I see Lagerbielke's on the bench. Does he come on just from the perspective of giving Carter Vickers a break? I don't understand the Lagerbielke situation. Welsh for me last week didn't look on it at all. Fitness, rustiness, whatever you say, that goal we lost was largely down to him. Combination of him and Johnson, I'll admit. I think positional play from both wasn't great, but I mean, I think you said Welsh looked like he was towing a piano trying to get back to cover his man. And do you know what? That it wasn't a fancy flowing move that Livingston produced. It was a ball over the top that we were flat-footed. And he's in today. There's no reason why that couldn't happen again. So we are going to have to be absolutely sharp as possible at the back. And maybe fitness aside, maybe that's what Carter Vickers can bring, is that wee bit of sharpness. Directing Welsh. There's your marker, son. There's where you should be playing. Keep your eyes on it. That's what we need. Particularly with Kalmack out, we don't have our usual captain, so he's going to have to step up today and maybe demonstrate his values in other ways.
And by the way, this is not an opportunity for me to have a dig at the same player time and time again. This is all down to performances. I remember Stephen Welsh coming in. I was at the first game he ever played for us. He was recalled from a loan deal after that, that he had out at Morton. He played some games at right back and right centre half. It's clear to me he's not strong on his left side. I'm guessing he's going to be playing as a direct replacement for Scales to do on the left side. You watched last week's game. He must have touched the ball twice, forcibly so, with the left foot. The only reason he touched it with his left foot is because he was under pressure. He does not like the ball on his left side. Craig Levine's a wily old fox, and he will tell his players, get him on his left side. He's weak. He's weak on his left. Last week was not his best performance in a Celtic jersey. I think that he had a really tough introduction to the Celtic first team during that COVID season. I remember him being the guy, Chris, telling guys like Salt, who was a Uruguayan internationalist who had played with AC Milan, about positioning. And I really liked the way that he stepped up during that season. He was taken off against Rangers in the 2-0 game. Remember when Duffy had dental issues and Ayeti pulled out kind of late on. We ended up starting with Welsh and Klamala that day. They beat us 2-0. Was it a Goldson double, I think, that scored that day?
Yeah.
And Welsh was devastated. I remember the image of Welsh in the stand and Cham was looking over nonchalantly as if he couldn't care less what the score was. So I don't have an issue with Welsh. I'm just looking at his performances, and there is an issue with Lagerbielke. It's a discussion point. The Tobago Street Police Station (CSC) membership can be obtained simply by spending a night in the cells. Big game today. CCV. Thank the ever-loving Lord. You're speaking my language, I'll tell you that much. Ian Gourley, Bernardo got to show up today. He's a discussion point. We must speak about Bernardo. You and Boy Martin, I love your optimism. You in 5-0 win today with a Kyogo hat-trick. Come on. And Bernardo playing a man-of-the-match performance. Well, for anyone who hasn't seen the start 11, I'm going to run through the starting lineup for Celtic and for St Johnstone, our visitors today. In goals, Joe Hart. We've got Johnston, Carter Vickers, Welsh and Taylor at the back. Iwata, O'Reilly and Bernardo in the middle, with Kuhn retaining his jersey, deservingly so. Maeda and Kyogo reintroduced to the starting 11. On the bench, we've got Scott Bain, that man, Gustav Lagerbielke, the lesser seen. We have Ida, Holm, who's been out the picture for a while, Vata, who was name-checked by the gaffer at his pre-match press conference yesterday, as was Daniel Kelly. We've got James Forrest, we've got Tony Ralston, and on that note, Kevin McCluskey, who is the greatest player that's played for both Celtic and St Johnstone.
I'm going to give you two, because I'm like that. Killian Sheridan and Paul Hartley.
Oh, Hartley's a good one. I'll tell you something. I found myself at Hampden last week watching Queen's Park against Partick Thistle. And who's playing number 7 for Queen's Park but Killian Sheridan? He ran the show. Ran the show, got a goal, got an assist. He's lean. He's looking fit. But yeah, Killian Sheridan, I'm going to say Tony Ralston. Chris?
You stole mine. I was going to say Tony Ralston. I was going to say, did Paul Caddis play for St Johnstone? I was trying to remember.
Caddis, that's a good shout. I'd need to check that. I know Momo Silla did.
Most as well, yeah. I'll go with that. I'll take that. Sure, do you know, I remember being at I think it was a game against Barcelona and watching Paul Caddis, and what a game he had. And then we barely saw him after that. You know, it was absolutely, I think he was exceptional for about 75, 80 minutes. You know, he kept, guys like Ronaldinho and Thierry Henry absolutely in his pocket. So I always thought there's a player that could go on. Again, a bit like Taylor, really diminutive. I'm the short guys union, but I always thought there was a player that could have went on and had a better career. But again, like so many, it didn't really build on it.
Didn't materialise. I remember hearing that story. I think he was maybe talking on Open Goal. Obviously came through, I think, with Simon Ferry and those guys, that he found out on the day of the game that he was playing against Barcelona. Now, when we're talking about youth, it's good that you brought that up, because that was another point that was discussed by Brendan Rodgers yesterday. He was talking about some criticism that he came in for bringing Daniel Kelly on in a game against Hearts. And I'm thinking to myself, I've not read that anywhere. Maybe it was on a podcast. It wasn't on ours, because I think we gave him credit for bringing Daniel Kelly into the fray. What did you make of his point around youth? The fact that it's his job to develop the young guys he's got. He's name-checked Kelly, he's name-checked Bata. He's obviously keen to keep them in and around the first team, isn't he, Chris?
Yeah, and look, it's good to hear, and I agree. I think it is the responsibility of the manager to try and, particularly in modern day football, and with the amount of investment we're supposedly putting into training facilities and youth facilities, I think it's the right thing to say. But the problem we've got is we're in a position where we can't just easily integrate youth players in at this point in the season. So, it's not like we've got a Tierney waiting in the wings that's ready to come in and really show his class. So we need to be kind of strategic about how we bring these guys through. Now, I thought Kelly came in. He came in under, potentially quite easy circumstances. In the Dundee game, we're a good few goals up, and he came in and had a good, comfortable performance. They looked, didn't look overawed. We brought him in against Hearts, much more difficult circumstance, but actually, I think he didn't look out of place. He looked like someone that was, up for the challenge. And actually, while he wasn't able to necessarily influence the game, to the extent we wanted, I certainly don't think he came in and did anything, that would say, oh, he's not ready. So for me, seeing guys like Kelly, Vata on the bench is a step in the right direction. But I think we're just through our own making and mistakes throughout this season. The fact we kind of lost our momentum. It's very difficult now to bring the young guys in at the early stage in games, and ask them to do a job, because there's so much pressure just now to win every game, and get the 3 points. But if we get a couple of goals in the first half, 60 minutes, then absolutely bring them on, give them some minutes, because we could end up relying on them towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I just think that we're kind of off the cycle at the moment when it comes to youth players, and I think we're probably off the cycle when it comes to bringing in talented players you can sell on in the transfer windows, because we've had 4 bad windows. But when it comes to the youth, I think we can trace it right back to the 9 in a row where we're dominating Scottish football. Many seasons there was no real challenge, when you're looking at the teams we were up against, and we were winning games at a canter at times. And I just think that every single season it was the duty of the manager, whoever the manager was, during that 9 in a row period, to introduce young players, to get them game time and break them into the squad. And then the following season, they maybe had 20 games, so they're that wee bit more experienced than the next batch coming through. Of course, some of them will fall by the wayside, but we didn't seem to give them the opportunity. Now, the counter argument could well be, well, maybe the talent wasn't there. I think it's one of the ones that you'll never know. You will never know if it was there. We would never know about Kieran Tierney if it wasn't for the fact that Ronnie Della needed a left back at training that day. These are the things. It's sliding doors moments. We hear it all the time. It's become a bit of a cliche. But with football, any footballer I've spoken to talks about what's required with regards to dedication, ability, natural ability, but they also talk about a bit of luck, a wee bit of luck, and getting that opportunity. Someone brought it up just the other day there. They were at Oakle View and they seen the debut of Roy Aitken, 16 years of age. 10 years later, you look at everything that he had actually achieved, be that the 10 men winning the league, beating Rangers in the Scottish Cup final 1980, and of course a double in 77, followed by the 1985 Cup final where he sets the goal up. So I do think you need the opportunities and you need a wee bit of luck as well. Now we've got DB New, we had high hopes for Welsh, Spiky Johnstone, Vata, and we also dodged a bullet by letting Owen Moffat leave, give Kelly a break. I think he needs a bit of a break. It would be nice to see him starting a game. Paul Leinster, no way are we paying $6 million for Bernardo. So why are we not playing Kelly or home? There's an argument in a game like this, home, St Johnstone. I prefer Kyogo behind Ida instead. I said that during the week, Paul. I would have played the pair of them. I'd have played the two of them up top. I would have actually gone for attack against this side. And I think that the reason I'd have played the two of them is I want to see the two of them playing against Rangers. Kevin, I think that defence can be got at. I think both of those strikers bring something different to your forward line. We know what Kyogo can do. Ida gives you a wee bit of the Akamakis in terms of the physicality, really stretching the back line, creating wee pockets of space that Kyogo can identify and take advantage of. We've not really seen it. We've seen it in wee cameo appearances when one of them's come on as a sub, Kev. I would like to see it from the start in a game like today against St Johnstone.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Paul Leinster, I think it was, who the last commenter that came up there, and that I would go with Kelly over Bernardo now every game till the end of the season. That's the choice between, if the choice is between either of those two to start. For that point of we're not paying $6 million for him, there's just no danger that we're going to spend that much money on him. He's had that phrase that we can't use now, the purple patch. So he's had his little flash in the pan that he had over kind of the end of the year or to the beginning of this year. And then he's just kind of regressed again. He doesn't bring as much in terms of the offensive side of the game. And I think somebody like Kelly come in would do that. He's 18 years old. He's a Celtic fan. He knows exactly what this means at this stage of the season to play for Celtic, to try and win these games. I think he would play without fear. And the only way you'll know how good he is to give him a game. I think, again, to go back to your point about the 9 in a row, the most disappointing thing about that is that we didn't produce young boys, and we had the chance to do it. There was a chance to give young players a game, and we just didn't allow them to do it. And I think we've probably lost out on a generation of talent. Tierney was the one that did get his chance, and he took it. He was the fourth choice left back at the club, and he gets in because Izagiri's injured, Callum Waters is injured, Joe Chalmers is away on loan somewhere. It's luck that he gets in there. If it wasn't for that, we'd never have Kieran Tierney. We've got to have a bit of trust and faith in the young boys now. Just give them a game, give them a chance. And at home, we should fancy our chances to win every single domestic game at home. So if we cannot afford to play one young player in the team in a game against St Johnstone, the greatest respect to them, there's something wrong and broken at our football club. So I would give him a game. And I would play him ahead of a player, like you say, in Bernardo, that's on loan, that we're likely not keeping. To go to your question and your point about the playing the two up front, or at least having Ida and Keel go in, I think it's a great idea. But realistically, we're not doing it because Rodgers is wedded to his front three formation with the two wingers and one centre forward. I don't see us going to Ibrox and playing an overly aggressive attacking game, but Kyogo's got to be the centre forward that plays in that one. He's the man that's got the history of going there, scoring the big goals in the big games, and I think he's got it in him to do it again. So he needs to play this today. He needs to play in a couple of weeks' time against Livy to be totally match sharp for it. And they're a team that can be got at, and I think Kyogo can do it. He's done it in the past. He can do it again, and he does a good option off the bench for that fixture. I don't see him starting them both, but maybe these games on the run-in, other home games against lesser opposition, we should go for the two up front, and we can take a bit more of a risk. So it's something that I say maybe we could try, but it's not going to happen for the Rangers game, I don't think.
No, there's one thing, and I loathe to use the word predictable, but you're very often you see the starting 11, and it's rare that you're surprised, really, with the way that we shape up. St Johnstone lineup is as follows: Mitov, Considine, McGowan. Considine's been around for years, isn't he? I mean, he must be about 40 or something by now. Gordon is the captain. Carey, Sidibe, Robinson, Smith, Sprangler. I'm talking to Double Den. I'm talking about Sprangler. Did you used to have a pair of Spranglers? Keltjins and Phillips. That's the starting lineup. Are Wranglers still a thing, by the way? Double denim, you'll know.
Wranglers is my brand. That's
is that your choice? Oh, there we go. Let's hope number 23 Sprangler does not come back to haunt us, because he sounds like a pair of double denim jeans. Right, here we go. Quarterback Punk, welcome to the show. It's the first time I've seen that name popping up, which proves there is no favouritism when it comes to selecting the comments on Acsom. He gets name checked for the guy from PK Blinders. We're still talking about Killian Sheridan, who I've often called Killian Murphy. And if I ever get the opportunity to interview Killian Murphy, apparently he's got no interest in football. None whatsoever. No interest in football. We'll need to try and figure out a different way of getting an interview with him. Bernard Monaghan, always an absolute pleasure. He's currently in Alberta, Canada. He's going to be enjoying the game. And for anyone on the socials, go and seek out Brendan Monaghan's music on the Facebook as well. We've got Loopy, who thought the game was tomorrow. Well, I'm glad you've joined us. I don't know what kind of night you had last night, Loopy, but find your game, find your stream.
The players don't think the game's tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope they turn up. And there you go. There's a second one for quarterback Punk. Hi, hail, guys. Need fast flow and never boring today. Copyright Tony Haggerty. We've also got Chicago boy Lagerbielk, still not trusted to start. Jean-Paul II shouldn't be a problem beating St Johnstone, surely. You know, that point on Lagerbielk, who we've already discussed, Chris, I think it comes down to what you're going to learn about Welsh today. that we don't already know? What are you going to learn about playing a 3 up top today that we don't already know? I think that's the frustration. With these 2 games, and we need to take them seriously. We need to get the results. Of course we do. But obviously, we've got one eye on the Rangers game coming up. And it's all about making sure you know as much as you can possibly know about the mentality and ability of your players, your team, and how they perform in a different shape.
Yeah, and I think it goes wider than the first time. It goes to the squad. We're a bit threadbare on guys that we can actually bring in for each position. And, as we've said already, our defensive backline's been decimated at various points this season. We're not the only team, granted, but, it's been particularly apparent we've not had stability in that back line. We know what Welsh brings, as you say. We're not going to get any surprises from Welsh. We know what Carter Vickers can do on a maybe a more positive side. I would have liked to see a player who come in that we can kind of assess and determine whether or not they would be good enough to cover if we do get any more injuries, or if somebody maybe gets sent off and suddenly we have a position that we need to fill. We kind of got lucky, I felt, at the Livingston game, because we had. I'm partly guilty of this as well. We kind of written off Kuhn, for example, after his first. We know there's a couple of factors behind that in terms of his illness and getting his fitness back up to scratch. But actually, we weren't confident there was a great footballer in there based on what we had seen. And listen, it's been one game, so he might come in today and have a pretty bad game again. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping he comes in and kicks on the way he did. But he came in because Yang got sent off. Palmer wasn't available, so we kind of didn't have much choice of who to bring in that position, and we brought in Kuhn, and actually he did really well, I thought, for the most part. Not perfect, but I thought he did a lot better. Great attitude, good application in terms of going forward and trying to make a difference to the game. And this is the problem, right? We brought him in not expecting much, and he actually delivered. Mm-hmm. So we're learning something about Kuhn, and hopefully we'll learn something more today. But we're Welsh. Now, we know he doesn't have great pace. We know he's very one-footed. We know his positional sense is not brilliant. We know he's not really progressed in the last few years. He's just been a kind of steady hand. Why don't we bring Lagerbielke in and see what he can do? And see, actually, is there a resource here we can tap into, in very cool terms? As we've said already, what if Carter Vickers breaks down midway through the game? It could happen. I hope it doesn't. I really, touch wood, I hope it doesn't happen. But the point is, if it does happen, who comes in? Because that bench is weak.
Wafer thin. Good to see CCV back, but are we a bit light up top? I think we probably are, Ian. Chill pill, this is Bernardo's last chance. All I would say on that, going back to a point that Chris has just made, Chill pill, is we have written players off in the past and have come back to prove that we were maybe a wee bit premature in doing so. And Kuhn is the most recent of those. Bernardo, the difference here is Bernardo has shown us that he is a decent player. Just, to use the term Kevin used earlier, the flash in the pan, purple patch, you're starting to doubt whether or not he can do it on a consistent basis. We said even when he was playing those games, when he was putting in the man of the match performances against Rangers, he must do that in the second half of the season for us to justify the kind of fee that has been quoted. It looks to me like one of these guys who's a £2.5-3 million player that, he might be all right or not. So at this stage, I'm not sold on him. Am I concerned that he's getting a game over Kelly or even Young Home? Well, it just shows that the gaffer thinks he's better. He does think he's bringing something more to the team. And the one thing, and I said it yesterday, that Alan Morrison pointed out, is the lack of offensive passing. The passes that go forward are slim pickings when it comes to Bernardo. Most of the time it's sideways passes and backwards passes. That's not what we need. We need to be offensive. It's the exact opposite of what we were used to for 2 seasons. Now, we've also got Claffs, 1978, good year that was. Boys looking sharp in the new Irish Origin gear. Kyogo hat-trick today, hail from Corbett. I'm guessing that we were training in the new gear.
They came out the bus. They had full gear on, actually, so good promotional work there for the Celtic team. But they had the tracksuits on and the tops. Actually, to be fair, you see it like that, looks better than it does on the socials. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, it often does. It's the same with strips. I remember 2 seasons ago with the silver Adidas stripes and the star, people were a wee bit unsure of that jersey, but when you saw it on the player, it looked so much better. Hail to you as well, Brandon.
Lloyd made it look good yesterday. He made it look good.
He does, yeah. He made that bucket hat look good as well. Celtic 4, Saints 0. I like your optimism. That is what we're all about. And we've got Jamie. It's 3:30 a.m. Look at the commitment you've got from Jamie in Wellington, New Zealand. Good morning, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all. Because it will be. Yeah, have a Guinness. Enjoy the game. Thanks, everybody, or have a drink. I mean, you don't have to have a Guinness, of course. Thank you all for getting involved. We have got a very interesting gig coming up, not only because it's Acsom with Paddy McCourt, but I've got some news. I don't know if I can break it just yet, but there might just be a German documentary team coming to that gig to try and picture and capture, rather, what it's all about in the week leading up to a Celtic Rangers game. They've been going all over the world following derbies in South America and all these different places, but they really want to come and follow what Celtic fans do before a big Rangers game, and they might just be coming to that gig. If you want to be part of the audience and be in a German documentary, then ticket link is underneath this video. Right, guys, let's go to the action. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to Chris McElwain and Kevin McCluskey for joining us on a Celtic State of Mind. Join us at half-time for another episode of Acsom and enjoy the first half.